Okay.
But just let it run.
So what I want to show you here is this. Just I'll run through real quick, just to, as a
more than a factor.
As just a little kind of.
I think this video is up.
And I did kind of rub this down just a little bit and then add some stuff, but you know, I didn't tell you to do that. But that's a technique. We're going to keep going with this next week for a week project, a week worth of project, a week's worth of drawing on one project. So, so here's what you're seeing up here in the upper left, right? That's pretty definite, pretty contrasty, the edges are all clean and crisp, and you know, and this is where you start it. Okay, so. I know that I'm going to be dark. It's going to be dark in this area, so I just I kind of estimate how much I'm just kind of having fun. And I know there's going to be a dark over here, just in the opposite. So just loose. So not worrying about edges. Not worrying. I know there's going to be a cast shadow here. Okay, so, and I know I got to show a highlight right in this area, which is this, and so I'm just going to go loose back here. So keeping going fast, loose, lightly, all very important things. And as the drawing starts to develop here, I bundle the lines a little bit more. Okay. Now, to you right now, in this drawing might look too scribbly, right? It might look like it's out of control. Like I got to contain it. I got to control it. I got to come in and clean these edges up. It has to look just like this. Doesn't. Okay. Just start adding more marks as you go. Now, that's really out of control. A lot of chaos going on there, right? But I'm comfortable with that because why? It's a drawing. It's not the cup. It's not a photo of the cup. It's a drawing. Why not let the marks have an expressive life to them, right? Let it be this kind of adventure in mark making, because it isn't this. Okay, so that's the problem with making art and using, trying to make something look realistic because you're observing something in the real world or in a photo, and you're trying to copy it, et cetera, et cetera. Most people get in trouble because what they do is they want it to look like this too quickly, right? So then they overcompensate, and then all hell breaks loose, and the drawing, it gets crumpled up. All right. The trick is to be patient and control the drawing slowly in terms of the scribbles, and it's just adding over time. So see the various stages here. Now, what I'm doing is making the scribbles a little bit smaller as I go. And this is like 3/4 of the way through a 2-hour drawing or something like that, right? So I'm not shrinking these scribbles up yet. I'm not trying to get detail yet, but a little bit. They're a little bit smaller. I'm gathering around these edges a little bit more. Now I'm starting to darken it a little bit more, an hour and a half into the drawing, maybe. I threw some erasure in here. I didn't want you guys to do that because this is digital. It's kind of getting kind of globby. So just knowing where those edges are, I don't have to have a clean edge here. I don't have to have a clean edge here. I don't have to have a clean edge along here. I don't know where the inside of the handle and the cup begin or end there. So what? It's inference. Okay. So, yeah, it's not easy, but if you can kind of let go of the need to make it look like a cup, all of a sudden it'll start to look like a cup, just because you're looking at the elements in the composition, the patches of dark and light, and not that it's a cup, if that makes any sense. Does that help?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So just letting go a little bit and not worrying about precision is a really important thing in terms of drawing. All right. Because when people get in trouble, they try to do it. They try to complete the drawing before they even started, almost, because the real world is offering them something complete and tangible. Yet that drawing piece of paper is offering them nothingness, right? So you got to realize the drawing comes from nothing and goes somewhere. So, and it's a really slow evolution usually. Okay. Anybody else having problems with this? might, or insights?
Well, I had a temptation. I was trying to figure out where to put the cup, like where to put the cup on the page.
Mhm.
And then, so I haven't done this, but I wanted to like almost make a cutout of the cup and then, have that form a boundary so I could just scribble and it would run into like the edge of my ruler or something like that. And I guess it's the wanting to draw a line around the edge of the cup right away, wanting to have the frame there. So I don't know, I just wanted to say that that's what my inclination was. I haven't done it, and I assume it would completely change the mood of the picture because the edges would be really crisp.
Yeah.
If I was always running up and never going over. There you
Right.
go.
I think that the key is to not be in fear of the cup not looking like the cup, i.e. it's a bit
For a long time.
It's a bit distorted, and if you work real lightly, by the way, you can control those edges. And early on in the drawing, I kind of had the composition figured out a little bit, right? I kind of figured that the shadow would be this big on the paper. The inside would be this big on the paper. I didn't have to kind of cleanly draw that thing. Okay, all I was doing is bundling my marks. It's an extension just of the freedom of the mark making process. And then you're bundling them and then kind of laying more marks. You're just spending more time in an area. That's all, as you develop the drawing. And so by the end of the drawing, some of those edges get a lot cleaner looking, right? I can kind of clean those up a little bit with smaller scribbles because I'm honing it over a long period of time. Where the hell does that stuff go? Huh. Open? Oh, I opened it. Same with this, right? Pretty ambiguous, but yeah, that's like that's like right in the right place, and it is over there. But I wasn't sure at the beginning of the drawing, so the key is drawing lightly to get to that point. Let's see, I had the other one here somewhere. Got that, and I got that. Can I close that out? I wanted to show you the other one that I was doing here. Because this, I don't know if I showed you guys or not. I think we'll talk more about this next week, but this one. Well, either of these will work, I guess. There's two of them. The resolution, there's almost nothing there, but I guess I didn't outline. I just was just playing with the drawing to begin with, right? I just was guessing as to where something would be. This is the same, but so you can see how in fourth hour here, I was almost just kind of scribbling in the form. You could just kind of almost you're working from the inside out. You're learning how to draw from the inside out, essentially, rather than the outside in of any particular shape. So I'm just kind of, to start this drawing, I was just like playing in the middle here somewhere, right? And then I just expanded out as I went, knowing that, eventually I'd be able to kind of go to real dark in the drawing, 4 hours in. And so all that stuff I did in the middle becomes a highlight. Whereas in this part, it's a dark area, right? Against a highlight, which is the background. So this idea of kind of building the drawing from the inside out is kind of matter related, material related, essence of object related. So rather than the controlling thing. So you're absolutely right, Judy, that idea of kind of wanting to have that outline is a really big need. And I'm just trying to break you guys of that right now. Because it stems from wanting to control the world, in a certain way. So it's kind of a psychological thing too, I think, that we all have, right? So, and if we're going to be artists, we want that freedom in the work, right? We don't want to shut ourselves out to any potentiality in a drawing. Okay. So this is a really nice way to kind of train yourself to think in that way. And then you can extrapolate that and use that in different mediums and methodologies and whatever. So, but that's why it's so nice for drawing to think in those terms. So it's a process, you know, the 10th time you do it, it's better. Okay. And realize that that's what it is. It's a process, it's a practice. So I can just kind of introduce something one time for you guys, and you can kind of do it one time because we got to move on to the next thing, right? You know, so, but it's a very difficult, one of the most difficult things to kind of wrap your head around, definitely. Okay. That was a long digression, but it's important. So let's move now to the structural end of things, okay, on this simple object of a cup or a vessel or a cylinder or whatever. We got a couple things going on here in this regard. And again, ask questions as you go here, or as we go here. So I got the second one talks about, you can use a bowl, you know, I wouldn't use a plate, but you can use a bowl or whatever you want to use for this stuff. So it involves, and it's all, you know, kind of outlined here in terms of terminology and that stuff. It's the ellipse, which is a circle. That's kind of what I haven't really talked directly about that yet, but the ellipse is a circle in perspective, okay? And of course, a cylinder, the opening of a cylinder is a circle. So if you're looking at the opening of a cup or a can or something like that, it would straight on, right? Looking straight down at it, it would look like this, something similar to this. Looking straight down into the opening of that cup, let's say, okay? Full circle, okay? Unfortunately, when we do the elliptical form, the ellipse, which is a circle in perspective, we don't have that luxury of drawing it as a full circle. So the shape, when you view it at an angle, looks something like maybe that, okay? And so the cup would, in this case, it's a tapered cylinder, right? I'm not going to round those out, but, you know, it looks, you know, kind of a cup might look something like that, right? And then the bottom, this is kind of tricky to do this, but we'll see if I can do it. Not right place, but pretty close. Something like that, okay? And then I wouldn't see, let's round it out a little bit more. Something like that. And then I wouldn't see the backside, right? So we would get rid of that, unless it was a glass vessel. Okay, so that's looking at that cup essentially. You know, it's a little more tapered than the actual cup is. From the side, right? So from the top, here's from the top. I wouldn't see the bottom, right? I'd see the inside, but we're not going to talk about that. Looking from the side, I'd see that, okay? All right. And everybody with me so far? So essentially, a cylindrical form has a real structure to it in terms of symmetry. You know, one side equals the other. So when I'm going to have you draw this, I'll have you start with a vertical, splitting the thing in half. So left side equals right side. And then there's a horizontal that goes through where the furthest point out on each side will be on that horizontal, okay? So that's a way to think of this cylinder as a purely symmetrical object. No matter which way I turn the cylinder, if it is a round cup or a round cylinder, I could turn it forever and it's always going to look the same from my point of view. The only time it changes is when my eye level relative to the thing changes, okay? So let me draw another little, I'm going to kind of draw the same cup here, but I probably won't do the bottom. We'll see how. Now tell me in this version, so let's say this is the same cup, but I'm looking at it from a different height. Am I looking at the cup?
One more time.
Oh, am I looking at the cup now? I'm redrawing the ellipse that I drew for that little cup up there on the left-hand side. Now I'm drawing it again. But in this scenario, my head height, my eye level relative to the cup I'm looking at has changed. Has my head went up in space or down?
Up,
versus this view over here,
up in space,
up in space. Why do you say that?
because you're seeing more into the interior, and because of the shape of that is you're looks like you're floating above it.
Yeah, because the shape is like wider, right? Or deeper, or however you want to define it. This dimension from here to here versus here to here is larger relative to this one now. So there's that visual measurement thing, right? So if I drew, which I don't know if I did, but let's say for argument's sake that I made the width of this elliptical form right here the same as this one, okay? That doesn't change. What does change when your head moves up relative to the opening of a vessel or any elliptic tabletop or whatever is round is the front to back relationship, right? This one to this one, okay? Where this might have been, I'll just do it on the screen here right now. So I'm going to measure that right now with my fingers. You can't see me do this, but, and then I'm going to turn that sideways and walk it across the width of the vessel, okay? So I'm finding that the height of this fits across its width, okay? Let me see, 1, 2, 3 times, okay? Now I'm going to go over to this one, and I'm going to, again, do this. I'm going to measure on the screen here, just my fingers. I'm going to measure the height here and relate it to the width of this one. This moves across 1, 2, and just a titch left over, okay? So the width doesn't change, but the, this from here to here, when your head moves up higher relative to the object or the object moves lower, but the front to back changes, okay? So to find that out, all you need to do is what? When you're looking at a cup sitting on the table. To find out that relationship, how much front to back versus width exists.
Well, you just demonstrated using the pencil thing,
Yeah,
right? Where you found the unit for front to back and then figured out how many times it fit in the left to right.
that's correct. Yep. And here's I got some videos that go through this. So, take your time with the videos because they are pretty informative. There's 2 of them that are really kind of right on in terms of that stuff. This one I draw, you don't need to shade in this drawing. It could just be an outline drawing. But if you get to a point where you want to, that's fine. But in this drawing, I walk through this video. I walk through that whole thing of
It's not a full.
Be quiet. Okay. I walk through seeing this, talking about this cup and how it's different, and I move the camera angle. So let's see here. There's an elevated view, right? That's like you're looking down on it, right? This is like a more natural view. And that one's even lower point of view, right? Okay, so you can see how that changes. And then what I do is I'll walk through in this video the actual, how I start to block the thing in. Okay, we'll get to that in a second. Okay, so, but you're right, Judy, you got to do visual measurement. So, but I just want to show you how it changes here. So, that view, I have front to back fitting across width of it almost 3 times, not quite, okay? So this is more foreshortened than this view. And let's see what I get here if I were to do the visual measurement. I think I do it here, yeah. So
The drawing will represent this sort of view.
there's 1, front to back. How many times that fit across the width? Let's see. 1.5. Okay. So that's the way you figure it out, is using your visual measurement. here's another video that kind of shows you in process. This one I did on a iPad. So the drawing I made is, I'm creating the drawing on an iPad, but I'm constantly going back and looking at the cup. But here's how you do it in real life, okay? So see how I'm holding my pencil up, right? Right in front of my face, closing one eye. Now the camera automatically closes one eye because it only has one eye. Thumb, tip of pencil. So I grab that measurement and do what with it? Measurements don't lie. Your brain will.
On your paper.
Huh?
Put it down on your iPad.
Not yet.
Okay.
What do I have to do?
Oh, you compare it to the other direction.
That's right. You're just making a ratio relationship, right? Yeah, don't take a measurement and lay it down. But all you're doing is you're like, well, how much of this relates to this? Then you go to the drawing, okay? Because then you can make the drawing any size. You know, if I took that measurement that I'm measuring right there, and you could do it that way, by the way. I could literally measure the cup, that measurement laid on the drawing, and make sure my cup is, you know, front to back is that big, turn it sideways, and it would all work. But then I would be trapped by the scale of my pencil, okay? So that's a really important point you bring up there. But you're always measuring. This way I can take this and measure it laterally, and then I can make the cup any size. I could make a mural size cup. As long as the front to back works to left to right, the proportion is the same, okay? So yes, then I take that. Let's see if I do it here. There's one. Now I get 1, 2, okay? There's my guidelines. So I start mapping things in there. Now you can't see it, but I could do it on the iPad. I could literally measure, and I'm showing you with these arrows here. I'm measuring with my fingers on the iPad, taking this and turning it sideways and getting this 2. So I'm starting to rough in without precision again. We're back to that idea of working the drawing slowly. Now this is sped up, of course, but. Okay, so what I'm reiterating here is that the front to back fits across the left to right 2 times. So I make sure when I start to sketch my drawing in that I'm obeying those guidelines, those proportions of the opening of the ellipse. What I haven't dealt with, and I think I do here, is how much of the front edge do I see? You know, from the front lip down to the bottom of the cup. So I got the elliptical proportions. But I now have to figure out, because a lot of times people won't really understand, they'll make it too long or too short. So I have to figure out the overall proportions of the cup. So here I am measuring bottom of cup to front lip. Now, what would I compare that to maybe? What would be a good comparison?
To the top interior, like that inside measurement that you get directly in front of it.
Right, just go up. Or all I have to do is take that measurement, go upward, and see how many times it fits into this, right? Because I already have that standard. That's a standard for me, right? So let's see what happens. 1 to 1. That's easy. Now let's go back to the drawing. So here's my front lip right there, bottom of cup here. So I can do it on my screen, but I can guarantee you that this distance right here equals this distance right here. And this distance right here equals this distance right here. So now I'm acting out in the drawing those basic proportions. Okay. Obviously my drawing's probably, well, here it is bigger, but you know, I can't remember if on the iPad it's probably a little smaller than real life, but I could scale it in any size as long as the drawing has those proportions. But once you get that stuff, then the next thing you got to figure out is how in the world to create these arcs. These gentle arcs that you want to kind of create to create the curvature of the cup. As long as you know that you have a point right here and a point right here and a point up here somewhere and a point down here that you're going to live by, then all you have to do is fit these gentle arcs into those points. knowing that that's the lowest point of the arc is right there. It doesn't go straight across then up. Okay, the lowest point of this right-hand arc right here would be that. Okay, would be right there. The highest part of this arc would be the back dot, right? And those all line up on this cross figure that I created to begin with, right? Okay. The furthest point out would be right there on the left. The furthest point on the right would be right there. Everything has to obey that as you draw this, okay? And then it's just a matter of starting to whittle that into being, okay? And you can do that by using your wrist, turning your arm. Like if I'm doing the underneath one, I'll kind of put my arm up in the air and use my wrist to start to kind of create the, here I'm just showing the symmetry of the thing. You got 4 quadrants essentially there, right? By the way, thinking about that symmetry of this cup in perspective, the back shape that's defined by this straight line across, you can see that, and the whole back arc, should that be bigger or smaller than the straight line across and the whole front arc? If you could divide this elliptical form into a back half and a front half, which would be bigger in theory?
I think the back.
Well, that's what I do that all the time because it feels rounder, right? Because that thing is coming, the front kind of feels like it's coming towards us more. But think about the first law of perspective in terms of size of things that are near versus far.
Mm-hmm.
They're the same. If it's truly an ellipse, one half, any half is equal to the other half.
That would be the way I would advise you to draw it, okay? But in theory,
I think in real life it's different.
In theory, which half is closest to us?
The front.
The front, so you want it to be a little bigger?
Yeah, so in theory, it would be a little bigger. But I do it all the time where I puff this out way too much when I first start to draw the ellipse. This goes way too puffy, and this flattens out. So be very careful of that, okay? Because you want the front dot here, you want this front dot to the middle line to be the same, essentially, in this drawing. Just have it be your default, as the middle line to the back dot, okay? Don't start puffing this out, because I tell you, that happens all the time with student work, and I do it too when I first start to draw the elliptical form. Make sure that you're keeping this equal to this, okay? The left-right is always the same, because that's not, one side's not moving away from us or the other, right? So they're always the same. So the left-right shape is always the same, okay? Who could have thought that it would be so complicated to draw a cup? But it is, this is important stuff that, you would kind of makes you think and analyze and just more aware of things in the world as an artist, I think. Okay, so then the trick becomes how to refine that line, those arcs, okay? And it's a lot of, you can't do it in one line. Maybe hundreds of little scribbles, hundreds of little marks to create. And then you got to go in with your eraser and start whittling that away over time when you're happy with those arcs. And I'll run this and kind of see. Now I think I'm just double checking the proportion. And so I'm showing here how I'm kind of adding and subtracting there, right? Just to get that right inference of arc, filling it out enough. You don't want a line that goes straight over. You'll get a diamond shape. I'll show you that in a second. Nor do you want to puff it out too much, because you'll get a loaf of bread. It look like a dime. It look either like an almond or an eye or a loaf of bread if you're not getting this right. These will become points over here, right? It'll look like a diamond or something. But look at how I'm kind of whittled that edge down to one singular line almost, right? Now I'm just double checking. Do that always when you're drawing. So I just kind of show reinforcing that notion. All right, so cleaning it up. Adding, subtracting, just to get that arc to look just right. Just kind of playing around some coffee in there. Now, why am I leaving that gap right there? And over here too, by the way.
Well, I assume that the rim is has a highlight that makes it so it's not visible in the back. Is that,
Yeah.
or are you just waiting to find out where it is?
No, there is a,
I don't see it.
that's it. You don't want to overwork something. So, you know that there would be a line that would run all the way around here, right, to kind of create that. But there's no need for it because it blends in. The highlight of the rim blends in here with the side of the cup, right? The whiteness of the side.
Interior.
It's all one form there. What's that?
I just said interior.
Yeah, the
The
interior.
interior side.
Yeah, the interior side. And likewise, I don't need to continue this because the top side or the thickness of the cup blends in, it's all white, with the exterior side of the cup, right? So that's kind of what we call contour line, where you're using line in such a way that you're inferring form, right? Three-dimensional form. And you can kind of see it here in the right now. There's a little highlight there, but it's not nearly as obvious as the edge that I need to focus on between the coffee on the inside and the front edge, right? Not nearly as important as this back edge. You know, this all kind of blends in together. See how it kind of goes up and then just disappears. This comes down and just disappears, right? Because of the nature of those edges, right? So that might be a case where the old you would say, I know it's there, so I got to show it. You know, you don't have to, okay? You don't have to do that, right? Here I'm talking about kind of using facets to cut in angles to get that arc, okay? That's an important concept. I think I deal with that later on in the class, but. So it's just a matter of refining over time. Once you get that basic structure, you just take your time and refine those lines. And that's very difficult. You cannot assume that what you did the first time, which I see all the time, is correct. Maybe for the curve of that cup as it comes down, the 40th attempt to get that just right. Am I out far enough? Is it puffing out far? Is it puffing out too far? What's the trajectory of that curve? You get my point, right? Because most folks will just kind of go to the first line or maybe correct it twice or three. No, that's why drawing lightly is really important. Learning to draw very lightly and really hone this thing over a long period of time. And then you have a nice line drawing at the end, right? You can kind of see if I show an overview there. You know, okay. Okay, one more thing here. Any questions?
Can we use the same photo that we've been using for the first drawing?
Okay, very good question. I want you to draw from real life this time, okay?
Okay.
Okay, because of the visual measurement issue. Okay, yeah, this one will be you setting an object on a table or something and drawing a picture of it. Okay, and what I would like you to do, by the way, thanks for bringing that up, is where'd that go? Set yourself up in a good space, because we're going to have to do this from now on for the next, till the end of the semester. We're going to do still life. So see how I did this here? I took a white sheet of paper, rolled it up behind it, right? Set, I have could have a back of a chair or something, tape the paper to the back of the chair. And I had just a piece of wood here propped up so I get a certain height of the thing. It's a small drawing board, but you're going to use your drawing board probably to place your drawing on. And and I have light coming in from the window. So even though it's a line drawing, I want to have a nice source of light, and really clean, clear space to actually see this object without. I have had students in the past, because they send me pictures of it, and there's junk strewn around on the table, and they have the cup there, and there's like a book half covering, So that's not conducive to kind of really absorbing the energy and the specifics of that object you're fixated on, okay, with all this other stuff going on. So I'm a big advocate of kind of clearing a nice little space for yourself if you can do that. for any sort of still life you do. So then find, and this cup you can do, or bowl, or whatever you want to do, doesn't have to be white against white either. Okay. So it could be, it's a little easier to see that, by the way, but just because of the way light hits it. But, you know, a dark blue cup or something like that, sometimes you're not actually seeing it, the forms in the way that you should, but, and nothing too decorative. Don't put pattern on it. Don't put any of that stuff on if it happens to have it. I just want you to focus on the drawing of this object as a shape and a form. Okay. So this is not photo based. Okay. So this is, this one is, I want you to draw from still life. Okay. Okay. Just a couple more little things here and then I'll let you go. So I just wanted to show you, I think I did. So here's same video, same kind of thing here. It's just a reinforcing video done actually with real pencil paper, that sort of thing. So in this one, just want to show you how I blocked it in, did the cross, right? Then started to just put those dots down there based on my measurements, which I think was a 3-to-1 or something like that. Now that is like a football. Okay, that looks like a diamond. That looks like a football. That looks like not a diamond, but it could be pretty close if I straighten those lines out. An almond, an eye, you know, an eye, shape of an eye. That's because I'm not, if you can see this, arcing this up enough here. And this definitely, this is almost like a line straight across there, right? So to avoid that point over here of the football, I would have to kind of put a curve right here. And then follow that curve upward, but not too high because I don't want to get above this. Follow that curve upward and then slowly bring it back down because this is a much softer curve up here than this, of course, right? That's the art of carving in this elliptical form. And just, I can't do this. 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 It never looks right. It never looks right. Well, it just takes time, right? And then I'll do a lot of erasing. One trick is to get one of these looking pretty good and look at that when you do the opposite one over here, kind of in reverse though, right? So that's one way of looking at it. Look at what I've done. See how in my sketch even I made this bigger than this, right? Front to back. So there I am falling prey to the tendencies, right? So now I do that because, why am I doing that? Why am I putting a straight line across there? Because that gives me guidance to know that this arc, for instance, here as it comes down, can't hit this line right here until when? If I'm working on this arc right here, I can't bring it down and hit this line right here until I can't get down this low on the paper until when?
Until you hit the point.
That's right.
Bottom.
Right, exactly. Now it could run very parallel to it for a little while, slightly moving up, but I got to be sure, because what will happen if you start doing that, then this will puff way out and look like like I said, a loaf of bread or something like that. That won't look right either. Okay. So lots of, I'll just run this just a little bit just to show you how I can kind of, and I'm doing the same there just so I have a kind of a sense of, and there's my visual measurements. I'm double checking that, making sure that's all right. Now I'm pulling back a little bit, right? I blocked it in. I erased it away. You know, just it was too dark. So now I'm kind of pulling it back. I'm happy with it, but just pulling it back a little bit. Now there's the overall measurements that I'm dealing with, right? And using that straight edges. If it's this is a bowl, so I know it's tapered in, right? And I'm just putting a curve on that. So you can see how the straight line, that ruler really helps in terms of understanding the trajectory of a curve, okay? So then I just pop some curves in there, right? Based on those angles I've created. See how I brought that line down? Brought it way down, right? That was made too much of an angle, right? Self-correcting, right? You got to have the courage to correct. You got to take chances. You got to, and you may be making the wrong move, but you'll know it when you make it, right? So, okay. So what I did is I started to put just a little bit, we haven't talked too much about cross hatching, but just a little bit of value in here just to help me out a little bit. in terms of rendering. Sometimes that helps in terms of getting these curves more accurately rendered. You know, it's just to throw in a little bit of value here and there. Again, this is a preliminary drawing. It's not a finished drawing. So if I was making a finished drawing, I'd take that all the way out to the edge here, right? You know, take that value all the way out there, that dark. But okay. So you don't need to put the shadow in, but if you want to, think about scale. You could use just a half sheet of paper here because it's a smaller drawing, you know, but don't make it too tiny on the drawing, okay? You know, kind of fill up the composition with whatever vessel you're drawing. There, I'm talking just a little bit of light. This one's narrated, I think I narrate this one. But anyways, you got 3 or 4 videos there to kind of choose from to refresh your memory as you start drawing this. That's all on the document that I sent out to you. Okay. I don't think I missed anything. Any questions? Just, you know, you can erase on this one. Didn't want you to erase anything there. It's a different type of drawing. You know, it's a more analytical approach here. So erasure is fine on this, but still draw lightly. So by the end of the week, you'll have a drawing of the scribble drawing using those patches of value and the photograph. And then you'll have an analytical version of your own vessel drawn, okay, using more outline technique, okay? You don't have to put value in that if you don't want to, of your own setup, okay, from real life, okay? And as you don't have to turn one in before the other. One could actually inform the other if you want to kind of look at it that way. If you want to do the analytical one, then go back to the scribble, and that's fine. And then just turn those in, you know, at the week's end. So we have 2 drawings to grade this session.
All right.
Okay, for this one. Okay. And there's a lot of description in the project descriptions too. So they go into a lot of detail. So just to refresh your brain a little bit and take a look at those videos as well. So, any questions?
Mm-mm.
No?
Is the end of the week tomorrow?
It is, yeah, but some folks extend it a little bit further into the weekend. So
Okay.
so I keep it flexible. So that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll probably have it done by Sunday then.
Okay.
Same with some of the late work.
This Sunday, David, or the following?
No, this Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm finally catching up with all my work.
I'm kidding with you. So yeah, the weekend's fine. Yeah, whatever. That's fine. Yeah, I'm pretty flexible on that. So this should only take you 15 minutes, maybe, or something like that. No, this should take a good 2 hours to really hone it, like I did with that cup with the coffee in it, right? So if you can kind of get it, once you get the basics, whittle it down, get some really thin, beautiful edges going on the drawing. Okay, see if you can do that. It's a tough drawing, very tough drawing. But sometimes I skip this, and I shouldn't, just because we run out of time, but I just made it a point to do both of these in the same week. So just because it's a really important concept. It's everywhere. It's, you know, if you're drawing a car, if you're into industrial design, you want to go into that, you're drawing tires, you got to, these elliptical forms are everywhere in the world around us. So lamps, whatever, you know, you see a lamp behind Christine's head there and over her right shoulder. And that would be an elliptical form that would go up from our point of view, right? Because the top of the lamp is a circle, but it's curving upward, right? So understanding how we engage ellipses is a really important concept. So, okay. That's it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Great questions. Great comments. I appreciate it as always.
See you
And
Tuesday.
we'll see you next week then.
All right.
Have a good week.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay.
I
take
do
care.
have one final question.
Yeah, go ahead, David.
When I'm trying to do the shading the darkening of the tone for the scribble drawing, I should smudge first, like just slightly smudge, and then start continue drawing over it.
You want to do that, you say? You feel like
I don't know how, because anytime I've tried to darken certain areas, I guess maybe it's because I'm not using the lines to go along with the, am I supposed to try to make the lines go along with the outline of the,
No, no, that's a great question. No, I want them to be random, okay?
Random, all right.
As much as possible, because we don't want clean edges on that drawing, okay?
Mm.
You know, if you look at mine, I don't have any clean edges on them at all. There's no clean edges there.
It almost looks clean. That's the odd part. It's so chaotic.
Because I'm stopping the scribbles kind of short. You know, once in a while I'll go along an edge, but essentially I'm just stopping them short of where I see the edge starting to develop, right?
Gotcha.
So it's inference, it's edge by inference rather than outline. And the reason I'm having to do this is to break you of the habit of having to outline. Now, the drawing we're doing next, right, this second version, is all about that outline thing, right? You know, so
Gotcha. It's an exercise.
two different ways of viewing the same problem, essentially.
Understood.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. You have a
All right.
wonderful day then.
Great questions. Take care.